Nation gears up for the world's largest vaccination drive beginning Saturday. Consignments of vaccine reach 13 cities including Delhi. The first phase will see 3 crore healthcare and frontline workers being inoculated. India continues to strengthen its position in its fight against COVID. Country records lowest new cases in several months with 12,584 new positive cases in the last 24 hours. No addition for new UK strain in the last 24 hours. Health Ministry says both Covaxin and Covishield are completely safe, effective and pocket friendly. World Health Organization team to arrive in Wuhan in China tomorrow to investigate the origins of novel coronavirus. WHO Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus says the organization looks forward to working with China on the mission to identify the source of the virus and how it entered the human population. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar says India has always been at the forefront of global counter-terrorism efforts. Speaking at the UNSC forum, Minister says there are other states that are clearly guilty of aiding and supporting terrorism and willfully provide financial assistance and safe havens. Cabinet expansion in Karnataka to take place today. 7 new faces to be inducted. Early voting underway in the Democratic-controlled U.S. House of Representatives on invoking the 25th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution to remove President Donald Trump from power after his supporters stormed the Capitol. Vice President Mike Pence rejects the move. Federal Bureau of Investigation opens 160 cases in the incident at the U.S. Capitol by rioters last week. And Paul Pogba's second half volley gives Manchester United a win at Burnley and puts them at the top of the English Premier League points table. Man U dominate a contest which Burnley fails to register a single shot on target until stoppage time to now open a 3-point lead over Liverpool. Good morning, welcome to English News. I am Anil Thomas. Now for the stories in detail. The world's biggest inoculation drive is set to begin in India. Consignments of vaccines to stop the coronavirus pandemic in its tracks started arriving at regional distribution hubs in different states on Tuesday. Nearly 55 lakh doses are being delivered on Tuesday itself, and all the vaccinations will reach their respective destinations by Thursday. Here's more.
And the battle against COVID has reached its decisive phase, with vaccines to neutralize the coronavirus reaching different parts of the country. The COVID-19 vaccination campaign starts across the country from January 16, but delivery of the vaccines started with the first arrivals on Tuesday.
ये अभी फाइनल हिस्टोरिकल मोमेंट आया कि वैक्सीन एक्चुअली रिलीज होके जा रही है हमारी फैक्ट्री से, तो बहुत खुशी का दिन है। और अभी हमारा मेन चैलेंज है कि पूरे देश को, सब लोगों को ये वैक्सीन पहुंचानी है।
The vaccines are being stored in 4 major depots in Karnal, Kolkata, Chennai and Mumbai, where vaccine storage capacities have been ramped up. States have at least 1 major regional vaccine depot. There are 9 in Uttar Pradesh, 5 in Madhya Pradesh, 4 in Gujarat, 3 in Kerala, 2 in Jammu and Kashmir, Karnataka and Rajasthan. The Health Ministry has asked the states and union territories to make all preparations for the vaccination drive. Initially, 1 crore health workers and 2 crore frontline workers will be vaccinated. The ministry informed that 54,72,000 doses will be delivered by Tuesday. All the vaccines will reach their respective destinations by the 14th of January.
पहली प्राथमिकता में पब्लिक हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज़ और प्राइवेट हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज़ में काम करने वाले हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स हैं, जिनका वैक्सीनेशन 16 तारीख से प्रारंभ होगा। इसमें लगभग 1 करोड़ लोग हैं। उसके बाद फ्रंट लाइन वर्कर्स हैं, उसमें 2 करोड़ लोग हैं। उसके बाद प्रायोरिटाइज्ड एज ग्रुप्स हैं, जिसमें 27 करोड़ लोग हैं, 50 साल से ऊपर वाले और 50 साल से नीचे कोमॉर्बिडिटी वाले लोग।
ये दोनों वैक्सीन सेफेस्ट ऑफ द वैक्सीन हैं। इनका अगर आप डेटा देखें, हजारों व्यक्तियों में इनको टेस्ट किया गया है, दोनों वैक्सीन को, कुल मिला के अगर आप देखें तो साइड इफेक्ट्स आर नेग्लिजिबल। और किसी भी जितने भी वैक्सीन हैं हमारे टेटनस टॉक्सर से लेके हेपेटाइटिस तक, तो उनके साथ भी अगर आप कंपेयर करेंगे तो ये उनमें कम से कम साइड इफेक्ट्स वाले, एडवर्स इफेक्ट वाले वैक्सीन है।
The first consignment of COVID vaccines arrived in Delhi on Tuesday morning. The batch of Covishield vaccines came from Pune to Delhi in 34 boxes weighing 1,088 kgs. State governments are following all the guidelines to ensure proper storage to distribution mechanisms. Tamil Nadu Health Secretary J. Radhakrishnan said vaccines would be distributed to different locations from Chennai. In Uttar Pradesh too, all preparations are in place. Police are manning the storage centers of the vaccine in the state.
We got 45 cartons of this Covishield from Pune. It will be redistributed to 10 regional cold chain centers. From the regional cold chain center, it will go to 51 district level walk-in coolers, all maintained with the cold chain. The transportation will be entirely without compromising the cold chain requirement.
प्रत्येक मंडलीय मुख्यालय में जो स्टोरेज पॉइंट्स हैं उनको स्टेट स्टोरेज पॉइंट कहा गया है, तो वहाँ पे व्यापक पुलिस व्यवस्था होगी और वहाँ पूरी लाइटिंग की, वहाँ एक सशस्त्र गार्ड लगाया जाएगा, वहाँ फायर फाइटिंग इक्विपमेंट्स होंगे तथा उसको लगातार मजिस्ट्रेट और हमारे गस्टेड अफसर जो पुलिस के हैं उसके द्वारा चेकिंग कराई जाएगी.
Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar said that the situation will become clear in the next few weeks regarding export of the vaccines.
We are sympathetic. Now, a lot of it is the practicality of it. This is a serious issue. I would do my homework and sort of double check it or I actually go from. But I don't think we're looking at too long a period.
Vaccination for COVID-19 has been ongoing for the last 3 weeks in about 50 countries. So far, only about 25 million people have been vaccinated. India aims to vaccinate 300 million people in the next few months. State governments will not bear any cost to vaccinate 3 crore healthcare and frontline workers in the first phase. The expenses are being borne by the centre. DD India.
Well, India has crossed a crucial milestone in its fights against the global pandemic. The daily new case touched a new low on Monday with 12,584 new cases being added to the national tally after nearly 7 months. The daily new cases were 12,881 on the 18th of June 2020. With a sustained, proactive and calibrated strategy of the centre based on the whole of government and the whole of society approach, the daily new cases have seen a consistent decline. This has ensured a steady fall in daily fatalities too. 167 daily deaths recorded in the last 24 hours, and India's active caseload now falls to 2,16,558 on Monday. Following the national collective pursuit, 25 states and union territories have less than 5,000 active cases. Meanwhile, the total number of persons found positive with the UK variant strain of COVID currently stands at 96. There has been no addition to the total number in the last 24 hours. Well, let's now also take a look at the COVID situation across the worst affected states of the country. Kerala reported the maximum number of new cases on Tuesday. 3,110 positive cases were reported on Tuesday. Besides, 3,922 patients were also discharged, while 25 patients died in the last 24 hours. Well, moving to Maharashtra, where 2,936 new cases were registered on Tuesday, 3,282 patients were discharged, while 50 patients died in the last 24 hours. Heading down south, Tamil Nadu gained ground in its fight against COVID-19, with the daily case numbers dropping below the 700 mark for the second day in a row. A total of 671 persons tested positive for the disease across the state on Tuesday. 8 deaths were reported, while 827 patients were discharged in the last 24 hours. Heading up north to the national capital Delhi, where 386 new cases of infections were reported on Tuesday. 545 patients were cured and discharged, while 16 patients died in the last 24 hours. Currently, there are 3,179 active cases in the national capital. Well, moving back to the member Health Niti Aayog, Dr. V.K. Paul has said that both the authorized vaccines, Covaxins and Covishield, are safe, effective, pocket-friendly, and there should not be any doubt. He added that they are the safest vaccines and it has been tested on thousands of people.
ये दोनों वैक्सीन सेफेस्ट ऑफ द वैक्सीन हैं। इनका अगर आप डेटा देखें, हजारों व्यक्तियों में इनको टेस्ट किया गया है, दोनों वैक्सीन को कुल मिला के अगर आप देखें तो साइड इफेक्ट्स आर नेग्लिजिबल। और किसी भी जितने भी वैक्सीन हैं हमारे टेटनस टॉक्सर से लेके हेपेटाइटिस तक, तो उनके साथ भी अगर आप कंपेयर करेंगे तो ये उनमें कम से कम साइड इफेक्ट्स वाले, एडवर्स इफेक्ट वाले वैक्सीन हैं। कोई रिस्क नहीं है। देयर इज नो रिस्क of any significance. Let's be reassured. Give this message.
Well, a team of WHO experts will land directly in Wuhan tomorrow, starting their long-delayed probe into COVID-19 at the virus epicenter. The 10 scientists will investigate the origins of the new virus in a mission that comes more than a year after the pandemic began. The World Health Organization team will leave from Singapore and fly straight to Wuhan, the central city where the first cluster of cases were detected in December 2019. WHO Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus said that the organization looks forward to working with China on the mission to identify the source of the virus and how it entered the human population. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Tuesday hit out at countries aiding and abetting terrorism and providing terrorist financial assistance and safe havens. The External Affairs Minister was speaking at the United Nations Security Council open debate, which centered on the topic threats to international peace and security caused by terrorist acts. The External Affairs Minister proposed an 8-point action plan at the UNSC to address the menace of terrorism.
To credibly address the menace of terrorism and ensure effective action, I would like to propose 8 points that could, in a way, be an action plan. We must all summon the political will to unhesitatingly combat terrorism. There must be no ifs and buts in this fight. Nor should we allow terrorism to be justified or terrorists glorified. All member states must fulfill their obligations enshrined in international counter-terrorism instruments and conventions. We must not countenance double standards in this battle. Terrorists are terrorists. There is no good or bad distinction. Those who propagate this only have an agenda, and those who cover up for them are just as culpable.
Well, as part of the proposed plan, the External Affairs Minister asked for an objective process of listing and delisting of individuals and entities under the UN sanctions and put forward the need for decoupling it from political or religious considerations.
We must firmly discourage exclusivist thinking that divides the world and harms our social fabric. Such approaches facilitate radicalization and recruitment by breeding fear, mistrust, and hatred among different communities. Enlisting and delisting individuals and entities under the UN sanctions regime must be done objectively, not for political or religious considerations. Proposals in this regard merit due examination before circulation.
Well, Dr. S. Jaishankar said that terrorist groups and lone wolf attackers have enhanced their capabilities by gaining access to emerging technologies, which is a thing of concern.
In recent years, terrorist groups and lone wolf attackers have significantly enhanced their capabilities by gaining access to new and emerging technologies, including drones, virtual currencies, and encrypted communications. Social media networks have contributed to the radicalization and recruitment of youth. The COVID-19 pandemic has only aggravated the situation further. The relative isolation and extended disruption due to the lockdowns and the associated distress and economic uncertainty has made the world more susceptible to radicalizing narratives and extremist propaganda.
Well, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence has rejected invoking of the amendment to oust Donald Trump. Vice President Mike Pence writes to the House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi that he is opposed to invoking the 25th Amendment to remove President Donald Trump from office. Voting to take place today in the democratically controlled U.S. House of Representatives to invoke the 25th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution to remove President Donald Trump from power after his supporters stormed the Capitol. Well, for more on this story, our correspondent Abhishek Jha joining us this morning. Abhishek, give us the sense, is there a sigh of relief, especially from the Donald Trump camp, considering that, at least the particular motion has now not been backed by Vice President Mike Pence, but, it surely goes for a vote?
Okay, so Anil, there is a sigh of relief, at least for the close aide, like the Mike Pence, who was believed did not succumb to the pressure of Donald Trump.
Okay.
When he asked him to reject the collegiate voting and the certification process earlier last week. However, today he has written down to Nancy Pelosi saying that invoking of 25th Amendment is not appropriate. And meanwhile, what can trouble Trump camp is that there has been enough number of senators and representatives who are now becoming increasingly in favor of impeachment process to Donald Trump. There are stalwarts and senior leaders of Republican parties who the U.S. media is reporting that they have come fully openly in support of impeachment process, that if not now, then when? Like what else could be the reason, what else could be the ground for impeachment of a sitting president, if not this whole Capitol Hill attack can be considered. So in this scenario, it looks very likely that unlike last year when there was this impeachment process and not a single vote from Republican side went in favor of impeachment, this time around when the impeachment process begins in the House of Representatives, we are going to see surely increasing number, maybe a dozen or more so, senators belonging from Republican parties voting in favor of impeachment process of Donald Trump.
Abhishek, considering that no U.S. president has been impeached twice, what do you see, especially when it comes to the House of Representatives, purely in terms of numbers? How do you see the numbers stacking up?
So, telling about this history, Anil, of course, no U.S. president has been impeached twice, but then never has it been in the history that this smooth power transfer has never taken place. All the presidents in the past have respected the this democratic process of election hearing, and the smooth power transfer has taken place. Never has it happened that the Capitol Hill has been attacked by the mob incited by the sitting president. So everything has happened, and though there is just more than a week left in the presidency of Donald Trump, still maybe this is a symbolic process that Democrats want to initiate and impeach president, that by the end of his presidency, he would always go down in history as a convicted president who tried to incite a mob and who did not sufficiently hold up to the democratic value of U.S. and all. But we are going to see how this whole working mathematics work in favor of Trump, because now we are still not sure how many Republicans will actually favor the impeachment process, because earlier it was believed that even Mike Pence could invoke this 25th Amendment, but with the changing times we are seeing also some swinging representatives from Republican side going in favor of impeachment or opposing it. So exactly it will not be clearer until and unless this voting happens, which will happen maybe by tomorrow, and we'll be surely able to know who actually voted in favor of impeachment and who did not.
Okay, one hypothetical question that I would put forward before you, considering that, the impeachment gets passed in the U.S. House of Representatives, what happens next? Joe Biden would have, Joe Biden, is that going to be one of his, most important issues, or, something that he would look in his first 100 days of administration, because that's also going to be a big Herculean task. He's also got health and education that he's put as his priority in the first 100 days of his being in power.
So in that case of impeachment, most likely the Mike Pence would be handling the caretaker government. Or if even that doesn't happen, then going by the hierarchical order, Nancy Pelosi could also become part of the government or the administration who will be leading the country until Joe Biden takes over the control as a U.S. president on 20th of January.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us. Well, would impeachment prevent Trump from seeking office again in the future? It's complicated, but we'll get you story as it unfolds there in the U.S. House of Representatives. Well, staying with the United States, the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, that's the FBI, has opened 160 case files in its investigation of the storming of the U.S. Capitol by writers supporting President Donald Trump last week. The assistant director in charge of the field office, Stephen DeConto, said in a media briefing that the FBI had received 1 lakh videos and pictures as tips on the basis of which these case files have been opened. U.S. Acting Attorney Michelle Sherbin said that 70 cases have already been charged and he expects that would grow into the hundreds. Meanwhile, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has arrested a person in New York City in connection with last week's storming of the Capitol by supporters of President Donald Trump. An FBI spokeswoman said agents arrested Aaron Mostofsky, whose multiple news outlets identified as the son of New York Supreme Court Judge Shlomo Mostofsky. His presence at the U.S. Capitol was cited in an article by the New York Post, which identified him as the judge's son. The article also featured a video of Mostofsky dressed in a fur costume at the Capitol. In a criminal complaint on Tuesday, the Justice Department charged Mostofsky of theft of government property, unlawful entry, knowingly impairing government business, and disorderly conduct. He is scheduled to make a virtual appearance in the federal court in Brooklyn. Well, a quick update on COVID-19 pandemic from across the world on how the numbers are. As of now, more than 9 crore 19 lakh coronavirus cases being reported from world over. Over 19 lakh 68,000 deaths being reported worldwide. Over 6 crore 58 lakh people also recovering from COVID-19. United States continues to remain the worst hit country by the pandemic, both in terms of infections as well as fatalities. In terms of infections, 2 crore 33 lakh people being infected by the virus, while the death toll now surging past the 3 lakh 89,000 mark. Moving to South America, Brazil follows United States in terms of death toll, with the death toll now past the 2 lakh mark, with the death toll now over 2 lakh 4,000 in the South American nation. Well, heading back to Asia, China is stepping up measures to contain a possible widespread coronavirus outbreak in areas surrounding capital Beijing, with Langfang city of Hebei province and put under lockdown. Beijing also shut highways from the neighboring province amid rising infections. Since Jan 2nd, Hebei province has reported a total of 326 COVID-19 cases as of Tuesday and 234 asymptomatic carriers. Some 20,000 residents from Hebei's capital have been put in a centralized quarantine. The residents from other cities in Hebei are encouraged not to enter Beijing amid the outbreak. Beijing extended its quarantine policy to 21 days. The recent spat of asymptomatic cases has raised concerns and prompted authorities to introduce strict containment measures. Over 1 million people in Beijing had received the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine. Argentina successfully passed the clinical trials for a hyperimmune serum to combat COVID-19 developed with antibodies from horses, and its distribution will begin over the next few days. The serum, to be prescribed at hospitals and other medical facilities, is produced by Argentina biotechnology company Immuno. The anti-COVID-19 serum has already completed its last phase of clinical studies, and Immuno is looking into a possibility of taking its treatment internationally. Argentina has reported over 1,74,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 44,848 deaths till now. South Korea, meanwhile, has sent COVID-19 tests to Bolivia, one of the Latin America's poorest countries, as it awaits the arrival of coronavirus vaccine. Bolivia's rich neighbors like Chile and Argentina have already begun vaccinating its population, and La Paz hopes to get vaccinations into the country in late January. Russia's direct investment fund has agreed to supply Bolivia with enough of the 2-dose Sputnik V coronavirus vaccine to vaccinate 2.6 million people, marking the South America nation's first major vaccine deal. The Latin American country has also signed up to the global COVID initiative, which is backed by the World Health Organization and seeks to ensure equitable distribution of vaccines. The government has said that it also hopes to vaccinate up to 20% of its population in the first quarter of next year through COVAX. On sports, in the English Premier League, Manchester United scored a 1-0 victory over Burnley to send them 3 points clear at the top. Paul Pogba's second-half well-taken volley ensured United dominated a contest in which Burnley failed to register a single shot on target until stoppage time. Now, United have 36 points in 17 matches, while Liverpool have 33 points in the same number of matches. This is the first time Manchester United have ended the day on top of the Premier League table, having played as many as 17 games since the final day of their title-winning campaign in 2012 and 13 under Alex Ferguson. Burnley are next in action against West Ham at London Stadium on Saturday, while Manchester United play the following day, that's on Sunday, in a top-of-the-table clash with Liverpool at Anfield. Everton, meanwhile, maintained their challenge for a Champions League spot with a victory at Wolves thanks to Michael Keane's 77-minute winner. The legend of Carlo Ancelotti continues to grow as Everton ground out an away win under difficult circumstances at Wolverhampton Wanderers, beating the host 2-1 thanks to an early goal from Alex Iwobi and a late winner from Michael Keane. The Blues were challenged from the outset by a quick and talented Wolves side, but Ancelotti set out his team in a similar 4-4-2 fashion that dug in and have won key games this season against big clubs in English football. Sheffield United finally gained their first Premier League win of the season in their 18th game as they beat 10-man Newcastle United by a solitary goal from Billy Sharp. The victory ended a club record run of 20 league matches without a win since the Blades beat Chelsea 3-0 on 11th of July before ending the 2019-20 season with 3 successive defeats. The start of this campaign with no wins, 2 draws and 15 losses was the worst in the Premier League history. The Blades remain at the bottom of the table but are now 5 points, 3 behind 19th place West Bromwich and 9 adrift of Brighton and the 17th spot, having played a game more than both the clubs. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of news, but you take good care of yourself and have a safe and wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.